back to another episode of Millennials to Millionaires. I'm Alicia Ace West.
I'm Daniel King Sold.
And we have a guest who you might have seen on social media, specifically TikTok. Like, if you are like me and goes down the rabbit hole of TikToks, then you for sure know him, maybe not by face, but maybe by hand, because just like they were doing, he knocks on random people's houses. Like, I'm talking about nice houses, like mansions, estates, and stuff like that, and just ask them the simple question, what do you do for a living? So yeah, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for introducing me, and I think you kind of gave a good idea of who I am. That's definitely like the first premise and where I kind of came up, and a lot of people know me for that. And I like that you mentioned, like, maybe not by face, because I don't really show my face on TikTok.
Well, I didn't even get to say your name.
Yeah.
So I was like, welcome to the show. You were like, thanks. He's so excited to be here. So yes, his name is Aaron Vankampen, right?
Vankampen.
Vankampen. You see, like, I'm not good with last names and stuff like that.
It's a little bit long, but it's all right.
Yeah. But yeah, so essentially you started blowing up just by knocking on random doors, and you are from Canada, which is a beautiful thing. Like, I love to see Canadians just succeed in the social media space. So that's really dope. But what made you decide to just start doing this, like randomly knocking on doors?
Yeah, it's probably a popular question, and it's honestly a simple answer. I was really hit by COVID-19. So I moved out when I was 18, and I've been self-sufficient since then. And I was working as a bartender for years, and I also had a business doing freelance location scouting, which is almost kind of like what I do on TikTok. But I would find places to use for filming, for TV shows, movies, but mostly commercials. And if you watch commercials, a lot of them take place in a house, or at least portionally in a house. So I would have to go knock on random people's doors and inquire about using their home to film for a commercial. So I built up the ability to knock on strangers' doors and inquire about filming.
You had you built up your confidence, because essentially, I don't know how many people ever went door to door, but it can be kind of nerve-wracking,
especially for sales.
Yeah,
that you have to like not have that fear of rejection, because you knock on doors, people slam doors in your face.
They catch an attitude depending on what region you're in.
Course, my property. I'm sure people that you've had some stories. People will be swearing at you, and you have to really build up that thick skin and resilience to be successful in this industry.
Yeah. It's about, like, I could go out and knock on 50 doors and get nobody to take part in doing this, and it's just about getting back out and doing it again. But to get back to kind of what I was saying is, when COVID hit, I lost all my location scouting contracts, all the work. And when the COVID hit, I lost my bar job, and I couldn't pay the bills. And there is government assistance like for COVID, but it wasn't enough. So I was looking for a way to advertise or market my location scouting skills on social media. And I studied advertising and marketing. So I was like, what can I do? I don't have any capital, but I need to get views. So I was looking on what app to use, what platform to use. And I noticed TikTok was the #1 downloaded all of 2020. And I'm like, okay, this is the platform. Now what's going to be my premise? So I searched through all these different trending style videos, and I found a bunch of videos of people asking, what do you do for a living, to cars? And I'm like, hey, has anyone done this with houses? Because I go up to houses all the time. So I scoured the internet trying to find videos of people doing this, and I couldn't find it. And as soon as I realized that, I'm like, this is untouched. So I was like, I need to go do this now. And I just hit the streets, and I made it happen. By the 4th video, I realized I created something way bigger than just a marketing tool for my business. It blew up, and I rebranded, and now it's a different platform.
And you essentially joined TikTok at the perfect time, just because TikTok has been around, I think, for a couple years now, but it was like late 2019 where it started to like really uptake. And then once we were all inside, stuck in the house, that's when it just started to like boom. Do you know what I mean? Especially with the younger market as well. Like, there's so many kids that use TikTok.
No doubt.
And they are very much obsessed with like the glamorous life too, right? Because they're just like, oh my gosh, I want to be a millionaire at 22. And they're
So what I appeal to an audience that thinks that success isn't necessarily attainable. Like the whole thing is, the takeaway when you watch my videos is that you can get a house like that. Like I remember growing up and reading articles and stuff, and even now, young people don't know how they'll ever own a house in Toronto or the GTA or wherever. And it's like, no, you can. Here's some people that did it, and they watch these videos, and maybe you might take something from it.
Yeah, and I think the most beautiful thing about it is that some of these positions, like, you never realize either existed or can make you money, because a lot of these people that you knock on the door, they don't have glamorous jobs. They aren't athletes, rappers, like, you know what I mean?
Because they don't have the spotlight. Like, it's not a glamorous job, and they're maybe not the traditional job. Like, a lot of people are like, we're the doctors and the lawyers. And I'm like, doctors and lawyers, you might make some good money doing it, but you're not going to make like crazy money. Like every big person that I've interviewed and met has a business, sells a product, sells a service, provides something on a larger scale where they don't have to work for their time.
Yeah. They've been able to essentially either franchise or just like be able to grow their business so much that they barely even do anything. They work, but do you know what I mean? Like,
it takes a lot to get there.
I've seen one of your videos where the guy who answered the door, he was like, well, I used to drive a truck. Yeah. And then I built the trucking business. And then, do you know what I mean? And so it's like that simple. If you realize that there's a need, especially during this whole COVID thing, we realize how much there is a need for just having regular people. Like, we never appreciated grocery store workers or the people that come and pick up the garbage and all that stuff. And those things, like, if you were able to figure out what the need is, then you could definitely capitalize off of it.
No doubt.
Those are the people that are on the front lines.
Yeah, and they don't have the most glamorous jobs, but shoot, they making money.
Yeah, most definitely. So let's talk about it. You blew up on TikTok. Last time I checked, you were at like 2.2 million followers. I don't know where you're at now. Maybe
2.3, I think.
2.3. Okay, we're creeping up to 3.
Yeah.
You see a lot of times people come out and then they're here, they're big one day, and the next day they disappear.
Yeah.
How do you like sustain your overnight success? Because this happened in a matter of a few months.
Yeah, definitely. So that's a really important question, and I can see why you'd ask that, because I think a lot of TikTokers, they get a blimp of some viralness, and they're popular for maybe like 6 months, and then
they disappear.
It kind of floats away.
We never hear about them ever again.
So what I got to say is, I think the commitment that I put into this is a huge factor. So I've quit my job. As soon as I started doing this, I put all my effort into it. And that goes a long way, because not only did I continue making the videos that I was making, I was looking for my pivot. Where can I go next? How can I keep this alive? What can I do that's in addition to what I'm already giving people? They want more information. So I started a YouTube page, and I had the pleasure of doing Sherrod's home. I actually showed this room in my video, which is great to be back. Thank you again. But I look to tell more stories. So I started a YouTube. I started growing my Instagram page. Instagram is very difficult to translate followers to. And I did it in a way where I didn't show my face on TikTok. And because of that, people wanted to know, who is this guy? Like, who has the courage to do this? What does he look like? So
you're like a mystery man.
Yeah, exactly. So I kept a little bit of mystery, but it wasn't a hard mystery to solve. You just had to go check out my Instagram. Yeah. Like, so that alone got people from A to B, and then maybe the odds that they follow. So that helped me grow the Instagram page. And honestly, just because I created something so original, it got shared on so many news channels and blogs and stuff that it helped everything grow. But to keep on top of where I'm going, I want to start vlogs. I want to start traveling the world, because there's different architecture, there's different jobs, there's different people, there's different stories to tell in every city all around the world. So this is a moving show. Like, it started here, and it's going to travel the world.
As you should. And I think what Daniel was saying in terms of like overnight success, a lot of people might get like that one viral video and then just be like, oh my gosh, okay, that's it. But they don't discover their own niche, and then they don't put the time in and then figure out how they can expand. The best thing, I was just talking to somebody, I was like, I need to expand off of Instagram, just because you never know when Instagram's gonna go down. Like, the way the algorithm is set up, I decide I'm shadow banned like every other month, right? So it's like, I need to start like exploring other platforms, because that's when you tap into new audiences. Definitely. Like, your following might be different on Instagram from TikTok to YouTube.
Yeah, there's huge like difference in demographics and geographics.
And then when it comes to monetizing and stuff like that, like, sometimes you're able to get more of a profit on YouTube. So I think it's a great thing that you're doing, and that is why you've been able to sustain it throughout COVID and continue to grow, and you have plans to continue to expand. I just opened up Snapchat, and I'm like, you should have a Snapchat show, and you're like, I have one. So let's talk about that.
So a lot of people that I meet, and the concept of what I do is, people always say you got to surround yourself with good people and smart people, and I just happened to come across a niche that is literally, I'm knocking on the doors of people that are successful. And what all of them tell me is to diversify.
Yeah.
And so with staying relevant, I've diversified. So
You're
I'm
diversifying
on
your digital platform.
Exactly.
I mean, your
Snapchat,
digital
Instagram,
footprint.
YouTube, TikTok. Like I'm on everything because you need to be, because exactly what you said. You don't know what's going to happen. Maybe TikTok gets bought by Microsoft. I know that was in the talks, and that might completely change the way the formula works.
Yeah.
I'm really lucky to have got on where it's at now. Personally, I think it's probably going to get changed ownership and be taken like and slowed down a bit, because it's not really good for business for other social media platforms. That I was able to get 2.3 million followers on TikTok in like 5 months. Like Instagram's probably like, oh, like what are we gonna do? You know, like so I think that it's gonna get changed, but it's all about diversifying. And I'm able to know and figure all that stuff out because of these amazing homeowners that I'm meeting and interviewing, and I'm applying what I learned from them on a day-to-day to my own business. Yeah. So it's really propelling what I'm doing and how I do it.
Yeah, that's key, because you can always get the knowledge, but applying it is one thing, right?
Yeah,
a lot of people say, knowledge is power, but I feel like actually applying that knowledge is power. Yeah. One question I want to ask you, because I watch all of your mansion tours, especially the one with Sherrard. I was here as well. You always ask people like, what was their biggest challenge in life, or most traumatic experience, and how did they overcome that? Right? So I wanted to flip that question back on you, whether it be, bartending days or, knocking on 50 doors and, having to wake up the next morning and do the same thing again with no result the past day. Yeah. What would you say is the most challenging thing that you've had to overcome in your life, and how did you go about doing that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple, and like I've thought about returning this question back to people, and I've like thought, what answer would I give? And I think like growing up in a pretty poor family, and like being around people that I probably shouldn't have, and mixing in with those wrong crowds was a hard thing to overcome. But I got away from it and I learned from it. But I think the hardest thing as an adult that I've had to go through is just living check to check to check to check, and like not being able to afford things, not being able to do things, and like working my ass off. Like I would work day, location scouting, night, bartending, and then I got to pay my car, and insurance is so high, young guy, like I got to drive to work, I need an apartment to live in, I got food. Providing for yourself when you're like 19 years old. And I put myself through college. Like I finished high school. I took like 6 years to finish high school because I skipped so much. Like I was not really, like I said, mixed in with the right people. So I had to come back from that as a young adult on my own, and then finish high school, and then be like, I don't want to continue like working and just like living check to check for the rest of my life. I need to go to college. So then I put myself through college, and I worked and I did that. So those were really hard times. Like delegating my time and trying to shift my life to go in a direction that I want to see myself do well in, rather than staying in that like past where I shouldn't have ever been in.
But how long did it take you from getting to that place where you feel like it was the hardest part to where you are now? Like how many years?
It wasn't even long ago. Like I think just even like when COVID hit, like I was struggling. Like I have a Honda Civic. It's not even a fancy car, but like I couldn't pay the car payments. Like my credit's going down. Like my car's gonna get repoed. Like I'm screwed. Those were really hard times. And I think those recent hard times of financial struggles is what really pushed me. That's why I was like, there's no bar jobs. Like what am I gonna do? I have this business. I need clientele. I need jobs. I'm like, okay, so how am I gonna get jobs? It was when I was really like backed into a corner that I just started throwing fists. You know what I mean? Like I needed to do something.
It made you really step out of your comfort zone. Yeah. And utilize the skills that you did have in your back pocket and try to, figure out your next step moving forward. Yeah. And I think that's what a lot of people, it might be like 50-50. Me, myself, I had to figure out a pivot, and I had to, keep it moving as well. And so I think that's one big thing that came out of COVID for a good handful of people is just figuring out what's next and how they can use the skills that they have to push forward.
Couldn't agree more.
So what's one of the wildest stories you have about knocking on doors? Has dogs attacked you? Yeah. Has people shut the door in your face? Like what's one of the wildest stories that you'll never forget that we might not have actually seen?
Yeah, so there is quite a bit. So there's actually a lot. The only things that you ever see on my TikTok are the success ones, because they have to sign consent forms, right? Like I've done it right from the start. So, but obviously I knock on a lot of doors, and there's a lot of things that happen, but probably, I would say, I'm going to mention the two worst ones. So there's dogs, right? Like I've never been scared of dogs. Like I had dogs growing up and stuff, but like guard dogs are not dogs. Like
they're different. They're
not.
They're different breed.
It's like
literally.
once you step on that property line, they're trained to attack.
Exactly. And you think they could just be like,
yeah.
No, like don't put your hand near the dog. Like it's like, so there was one time, and this was like, I had noticed properties with guard dogs and I've seen them and I'm like, okay, I'm not going to go. But so some of them, usually they're supposed to have the guard dog like sign or whatever. They have the invisible fence. They can't come across. So I went up to this door and I knocked on the door, like sitting there waiting for them to answer. And all of a sudden I hear barking. And the driveway is long, like this is a big mansion, and I'm here barking, and then I'm like, okay, is there a dog? Like maybe it's behind a fence in the back. Like I didn't see a beware of dog sign. Next thing you know, the dog. I'm looking like around the corner, and I see the dog come running around the side of the garage, like sprinting at me, and I'm like standing there. I'm like, like I can't outrun this dog. So he comes right to me, and he's like jumping up on his hind legs, like freaking out, and I'm like backing up, like trying to be nice. I ended up having to like dart down the driveway. I didn't get bitten, but I'm telling you now, I'm so terrified of him. Like seriously, he came like off the property line and was like jumping up at my car.
Oh my
I don't even know if this guy had a
God.
fence or not. And it was terrifying. Another one, probably like the rudest experience I've had, it was with an NHL player, which
Really?
I won't name who it was. And I had no idea whose door. Like most of the time I have no idea, right?
Yeah.
But I go knocking on doors, and this guy comes to the door. I honestly don't know NHL players much at all. I wouldn't even have known he was an NHL player.
For sure.
But I knocked on his door and he was so rude. He basically like cussed me out. He's like, "Get off my property. Like, who do you think you are filming here?" Slams the door in my face, and I'm like, "Whoa!" Like that was the most like abrasive I've seen somebody be.
Yeah.
Usually they're like somewhat polite, or they're like, "Look, like I'm not interested. Like I'm not buying what you're selling. I'm not selling anything." But whatever. But I went to the neighbor's door and I knocked on his door, and he's like, "Oh no, I won't do it. But you should go to my neighbor's house. He's an NHL player. He's all over the news, all over cameras and stuff. He would love that." And I'm like, "Oh really?" Like the guy that just like snapped
me
on
out.
me. So you never know who you're gonna meet, and people will have like bad reception to it, but it's just a part of what it takes, and like I know that, and it's worth it for me, so I keep doing it.
I really loved your Bob McCowan one.
Yeah.
Because you kind of like didn't realize, and then you were like, "Wait, are you Bob McCowan?"
So I'm glad that you knew who he was, because
I didn't know who he was.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know who he is.
I had to Google him, and I'm just like, am I supposed to know who
yeah. So I don't really know hockey that well, or like sports channels that much, but he's a pretty big guy. He's always got this. I love that he answered. I wouldn't have recognized him without the sunglasses on. Like he answered with his sunglasses. So he's like always. He was a newscaster or a sports.
Yeah.
What was it? What is his channel?
Sports fan.
590 The Fan. Yeah. So he was a radio host, and like he was on TV and stuff. And but yeah, I was like super shocked. Like you never know who you're gonna stumble upon, right?
Yeah.
And I guess when you're knocking on these really expensive luxury homes in Toronto, you're bound to find some people that are, like public figures or well known, so it just so happens that came across Bob McCowan.
I love that, because he said that his house was like $10 million, right? And so as somebody that has worked in media and is like a broadcast lover, like we don't get paid the same way that these stars used to, like these radio and TV stars, like we don't get paid like Marilyn Dennis or Bob McCowan anymore. So to see him own a $10 million house, I'm just like, dang.
He got that bag.
Sure.
I was like, I grew up in the wrong time. If only I was like a decade older, then maybe I could have really caught a nice bag. But
it's inspirational. You never know, right? Like some people do, some people don't. But he also diversified. Like I had the opportunity, and with a lot of these homeowners, even after like I film or I get them to sign the consent form, and I get a chance to talk to them a little bit more. Some of them know who I am when I knock, and then they answer the door. Like they kind of realize halfway through, but they kind of just do it. And I get to talk to them, and he's like, I diversified. Like he owns a winery, he owns a production company. Like he does a bunch of stuff. So it's not just his money from his broadcast company. I think he sold 590 The Fan. So like he made like bigger money from his businesses and using his public image to like support other new businesses. So it's again diversifying.
No, that's key. They say the average millionaire has 7 streams of income, so it's no surprise that everyone has 7 streams.
Yeah, definitely.
So what's next for the social media sensation Aaron Vankampen, brother? Give us some tips on what's happening next for you.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on. I just got into Snapchat, so I'm diversifying again, but I'm looking to expand my horizons. And by that, I've filmed 35 TikTok episodes here in like Southern Ontario and the surrounding cities of the GTA. I want to travel. I want to go somewhere that looks totally different architecture, different people, different stories to tell, different occupations. Like I want to get new people, new homes, and I want to travel the world. So I'm looking at potentially somewhere in the States, somewhere nice weather, that's kind of like on my near horizon for sure. Like I'm ready to go as soon as I can. Like if I can get something situated, like, and be able to go, I'm going to go right away. There's nothing holding me back. Another aspect of this is the show series that I have going on YouTube. It's picked up a lot of attention from some really important people. Sure. And there's a lot to come on that angle. There's a lot of negotiations on the table and a lot of really big deals that could come to fruition in the very near future. So I can't talk too much about it, but keep watching that show.
Get your bag. If you ever need a co-host, holla at me.
For sure.
I remember when you came here to do the mansion tour.
Yeah.
You were at 2,000 subscribers on YouTube.
Yeah.
I just looked at Sherrod's interview. It has over like 100,000 views already. Yeah. It's probably creeping to 1 million. So
do you know what's funny about that is I was on Twitter. So that video got to Twitter and I was randomly on Twitter and I seen some person tweet out this and the first Sherrod was the cover photo. And so I was like, hold on. I was like,
that's hilarious.
I was like, that's my boss.
That's great.
Yeah, it's definitely going out there, man. Yeah. All right, so before we let you go, any young viewers that are watching this show, all the millennials are watching this, and what would you leave with them for some tips for success? Yeah. Any secrets, any gems that you could leave with them if they want to follow your footsteps?
100%. I would just say that 3, 4, 5, 6 months ago, I wouldn't say I'd be someone that could give advice on success. I found something and I did the research and I executed it, and I've learned a lot along my journey meeting these people, like the homeowners and these millionaires and whatnot, and they all tell me the same sort of stuff. And it's very on par with kind of what I did before I knew that. And it was stay focused on one thing at a time. If you put all your energy and focus into one thing and don't have a plan B, don't have a plan C, because if you have a plan B and a C, you're going to be looking at those two and you're going to be, if plan A in a month starts to dwindle, I still have a plan B. It's no, put a risk in. If you're young, now's the time to take a risk. Buy something, go somewhere, do something, because you can fail now and still come back and succeed. It's about taking risks and focusing at one thing at a time and putting all your energy in it.
A lot of young people don't realize that life is a very long race, and they think that their 20s is when everything needs to happen. Yeah. And honestly, it doesn't.
No,
you got your 30s, your 40s, your 50s to really succeed in life. Do you know what I mean?
So it's a marathon. It's not a sprint.
Yeah,
definitely.
So before every episode, we usually end with a book recommendation or a movie recommendation. Do you have any?
Any favorite? It could be even a favorite album. What motivates you? If you had to watch something, read
something.
Honestly,
I would say lately, I'm a big Drake fan. Being from Toronto, his recent song "What's Next,"
okay,
what's next? Because it's it's so relevant to where I'm at right now. It's okay, so what's next? I'm doing this. What's next?
Endless
I love
possibilities.
that. Yeah, I'm not a super big reader, but I think just learning from people has always been my strong suit. And I would say rather than maybe a book or something, for me, and there may be other people that are similar to me, learn from the people that you meet. Take their information and really listen to them, especially if they have something good to say.
Everybody has a story.
Soak it up like a sponge.
Exactly.
Especially the older folks. You got to listen to the elders.
Wisdom.
They have been through a lot.
For sure. They made millions, lost millions, and they can kind of, show you how to get to success with as little detours as possible.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, that's it. Another episode of Millennials to Millionaires. Thank you so much, Aaron Vankampen. That's how you can follow him on all social media platforms. Make sure you follow him on every single one, not just TikTok. You got to do TikTok. You got to do Instagram. You got to do YouTube. And then your Snapchat show, which was Millionaire
Mansions.
Yes, which is new, okay? He only has one video up, but they're coming regularly. So thank you again for coming.
I really appreciate it. You guys are awesome at what you do, and I watch your videos, and honestly, you guys are onto something here for sure. So keep it up and keep having more people on here. Maybe I can return in 2 years from now. Hopefully,
the next time I want to see you is on my TV screen when I'm watching the show. So
I want to be able to binge watch on Netflix.
Exactly. So crave all of that.
Yes.
Awesome.
So Millennials to Millionaires. I'm Alicia Ace West.
Daniel King Sold.
And that's that.